Hi everyone, you're seeing this video because I'm currently away for service, and in this lesson we'll be looking at how to write chemical formula for ionic compounds involving polyatomic ions. Okay, so it's actually not new to us. Before the WA, we have already learned how to write ionic chemical formulas using the 4-box method. So for example, magnesium chloride, we'll start with the magnesium ion, Mg2+, Cl-, and we bring the 2 from Mg2+ down to Cl, and there's nothing to bring down from Cl-, so the chemical formula for magnesium chloride is MgCl2. Okay, so we're going to use this method and take it a bit further to see how we can write chemical formulas involving polyatomic ions. But before that, what is a polyatomic ion? Okay, so the examples are here. They're also in your ion list. So for example, ammonium ion is NH4+. And from this chemical formula, you can tell that one of these ions, one ammonium ion, has 1 nitrogen atom and 4 hydrogen atoms. Since there is more than one atom in this ion, we will call it a polyatomic ion. Okay, there's one more thing I want to talk about before I move on to the examples, which is, okay, so I'm going to use sulfate ion SO4 2- as an example. In this ion, you will see two numbers which are 4 and 2. Okay, so the 4 belongs to the O. What it tells us is that one of these ions has 4 oxygen atoms, and when we write chemical formulas, we're not going to touch this number 4. Okay, instead the one that we should be focusing on is the 2 in the 2-. So the charge of the ion is 2-, and we're going to use the number 2 in helping us to write the chemical formula. Okay, so on to our first example, which is potassium sulfate. Okay, so let us just briefly recap the steps to write chemical formula. So first, we are going to write down what are the ions in this compound. Okay, so we know that potassium ion is K+, sulfate ion is SO4 2-, and then we're going to draw our 4 boxes. Okay, in the 2 boxes on top, we're going to write the 2 ions. So K+ and SO4 2-, and then we're going to write the ions, but without the charges in the 2 boxes below. So top left K+, top right SO4 2-, bottom left would just be K, bottom right SO4. Okay, then we're going to do the bring down of the numbers. So in this case, K+ has no number, so there's nothing for us to bring down. Instead, we're going to bring down the 2 from the SO4 2- down to K. So what we'll do is we'll write a small 2 next to the K, and this tells us the formula of potassium sulfate, K2SO4. Okay, so if you can realize by now, it's actually the same way as writing other chemical formulas, just that instead of simple ions, we're dealing with something slightly more complicated. Okay, with that, I want you all to try the second example for ammonium chloride. Okay, I'm going to pause the video now. Can you all take about 4 minutes to try and write the chemical formula for ammonium chloride? Okay, so let us continue. Okay, I hope you have given this a try. So again, we're going to start with the formula of both ions. Okay, ammonium ion NH4+, chloride ion Cl-. Okay, and on the bottom, the ions without the charges. Now over here, you notice that NH4, the charge is 1+, Cl-, the charge is 1-. Okay, so you'll notice that both of these ions, the charges are they have the same number. So this is a special case. We're just going to write down the both ions side by side. Okay, so ammonium chloride would be NH4Cl. Okay, now that this is still quite simple because it's basically the same as what you have learned before. We're going to look at something slightly more complicated now, which is to use brackets. Okay, so the third example is zinc nitrate. Okay, so zinc ion is Zn2+, nitrate ion NO3-. Okay, so if you apply the same method as previously, okay, you do the 4 boxes, then the 2 ions are on top, and then the same ions but without charges on the bottom. Then the NO3 minus, there's nothing to bring down, there's no number. You bring down the 2 from Zn2 plus to NO3. You're going to write like this if you follow the normal method, but this is actually wrong. Okay, because if you write like this, what it suggests is that this compound has 32 oxygen atoms, which obviously doesn't make sense, right? So this is wrong. So instead, there are what this tells us actually is that there are 2 copies of the nitrate ion, and we must put it in brackets. So how we write it is like this, okay? So Zn, open bracket, NO3, close bracket, 2. So this tells us that 1 unit of this compound contains 1 zinc ion and 2 nitrate ions, okay? So generally speaking, we use brackets to write chemical formula when the compound has more than 1 copy of a polyatomic ion. So for example, ammonium sulfate, NH42SO4, this tells us that 1 unit of this compound contains 2 ammonium ions and 1 sulfate ion. Okay, calcium hydroxide, CaOH2, this compound, 1 unit will contain 1 calcium ion and 2 hydroxide ions. So this is how we use brackets in writing chemical formula. Okay, with that, again, can you pause the video to try writing the formula for ammonium carbonate, and we'll take 4 minutes to do so. Okay, so let's come back. Okay, I hope you have given this a try. So again, we are going to start ammonium ion NH4 plus, carbonate ion CO3 2 minus. On the bottom, the same ions but without the charges. And finally, to bring down the 2 from CO3 2 minus down to NH4. But now you realize that there will be 2 copies of the ammonium ion, and we're going to put it in brackets. So the chemical formula will be open bracket NH4, close bracket 2 CO3. So 1 unit of this compound contains 2 ammonium ions and 1 carbonate ion. Okay, don't worry if this seems confusing. Formula writing is a skill that takes time to build up and practice. So the more you practice, the more proficient you'll get, and the faster it'll take for you to write these formulas. Okay? So I'm going to pause the video for a longer time now. Can you go to exercise 3 on page 90? Take about 14 minutes to write the formula. Okay, you can take out your own rough paper to draw the 4 boxes if you need to. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video now. Okay, so we are going to look at the answers now. Now, this is your first exposure to polyatomic ions, so I am fine with your referring, but over time you are going to need to memorize these ions and learn how to write the formula as quickly as possible, because we're going to move on to equation writing very soon. Okay, so potassium nitrate KNO3, copper 2 sulfate CuSO4, iron 2 carbonate FeCO3, lead 2 phosphate Pb3PO42, sodium sulfate Na2SO4, lithium hydroxide LiOH, zinc carbonate ZnCO3, iron 3 nitrate FeNO33, iron 2 hydroxide FeOH2, zinc nitrate ZnNO32, ammonium phosphate NH43PO4, aluminium hydroxide AlOH3. Okay, so I'm going to hold it at this slide for a while so that you can check your own answers and clarify with the teacher if you have any questions. Okay, so we have learned how to write chemical formulas. Again, I'm not expecting you all to master this in 1 or 2 days. Okay, it takes time, it takes practice. Now, after this, I also want to introduce 3 new compounds because we're going to move on to acids and bases very soon as well. So you have learned about these acids before in Sec 2. Okay, you have learned what is hydrochloric acid, nitric acid, sulfuric acid, and we didn't talk about chemical formulas in Sec 2, but once you go to Sec 3, these 3 will come up very, very frequently. So you need to memorize that hydrochloric acid is HCl, nitric acid HNO3, sulfuric acid H2SO4. So today you have learned polyatomic ions, you have learned formula writing, and this is just 3 more compounds on top of that. Okay, so to sum up this lesson, okay, please start memorizing the ion list, especially the polyatomic ions, because that one is not as straightforward. Okay, so this is week 9, you have week 10, then there'll be extra lessons during the June holidays, and throughout the June holidays, you better start now, because once you go to the next few topics, you're going to write more and more formulas and equations, and if you're going to spend a long time, that'll be not very good for you in the long run. Okay, so it's a skill which requires a lot of practice, so I'll be uploading extra practices onto Google Classroom. And finally, something you'll dread a lot. So I'm going to give out 3 formula writing exercises, which will be due on the same day as the chemical bonding TYS assignment. Okay, which is on term 2, week 10, Monday, 22nd of May. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'll end the video now, and Miss Wong can take over. Thank you.